Thanks everyone for joining. My name is Clayton Duke, CEO and founder of LogZilla. Just two quick things today. Today is about you, bringing the log tool you might currently be using or have questions about in this log tool bake-off. So we're going to show you a couple of different vendors and some of the claims that are being made. Also, while we normally take questions at the end, we're also going to be taking your suggestions for any log tool you want to see reviewed against. And we'd be happy to set that up in a different webinar. So just real quick, LogZilla really does stand alone as the only log solution that's been rebuilt from the ground up. So back in 2003, when I started this as an open source product, along the years, as the years went by, I realized there were a lot of inherent problems. And what tends to happen is many vendors don't rework the architecture knowing that times have changed. And so that's exactly what we've done. We've refocused everything and really paid a lot of attention to three main areas. One is the ability to ingest quickly. Secondly, enrich data as it's coming in real time so that you can lower incident response. And then third, orchestrate that. If we know how to fix it, then let's give it a fix, right? So what's the real problem with log tools these days? Many of them are falsely advertised. They're very expensive and they've gotten extremely complex. It takes tons of servers in large scale environments, a lot of admin time, and your time to operability is weeks to months and sometimes even over a year just to get the system that's been architected up and running. So why did it take 25 years to rethink this? Here's what happens, and I know many of you see this all the time, not just in log tools, but really in a lot of software that's out there. Companies come along and they add features and add-ons and features and add-ons, and then they patch and they sell more, they patch and they sell more. It's very sales-driven. It's not solution-driven. We wanted to build something that was focused on the actual solution. So one of the things we did is I was poking around and found this from Loggly's blog. And they did a test between Loggly and Splunk with a data sample size of 50 gigs. They ran a search, and you can see here the time to finish for Splunk on the first run took almost 5 minutes. 50 gig for the second run was 3 minutes and 49 seconds, so a little bit faster. Then Loggly's first search run was almost 9 seconds, but their second one was much faster. So presumably that's why they were touting that on their blog. And so when I saw this, I thought, well, why don't we do something similar, except we're going to do 10 times that amount of data. So we did 500 gigs on our server instead of 50. The first search run took 0.76 seconds, and the second one 0.15. So as I mentioned a minute ago about the scale, the ingest speed, this is a huge, huge thing. And the reason is back to what I said with the admin time and the servers and cost of getting operational, right? If we look at the cost of log tools out there today, we look at the landscape out there, why does it cost so much money to install and operate these other products? And this, you know, we just have Splunk and Elastic here, but they all follow that same trend, that big hockey stick going up, right? And here's why. With LogZilla, you're looking at only one server to install, deploy, and operate all the way up to terabytes and terabytes a day. 10 or 20 terabytes is absolutely normal for a single server for us. Whereas you're looking at Splunk, Elastic, there's over 50 servers at only 2 terabytes a day. And that's where the cost per day to operate this really spikes up. That y-axis is the cost per day. So you're looking at 50 grand per day to operate these products, and it all has to do with the amount of people it takes to do it, the amount of systems, everything's calculated here, the power, the HVAC, full thing, right? Salaries and everything included. So it gets extremely expensive. And then, you know, the point here is to stop spending more than what's needed to store and process data. And this goes back to in 25 years, nobody has sat down and said, wait a minute, there's something horribly wrong. We've got to do this over. So we look here at a typical screenshot of LogZilla. This happens to be one of the Palo Alto dashboards. But on this particular server, you can see there's about 20 billion events. 97% of them are duplicates. So one of our 3 patents focuses on deduplication algorithm. And this is vital. But in their case, you look at the users here and the countries they're going to, and I don't recognize those users. And I start to dig in and look at this, and I click on that user list or message list, and I see here that there is multiple users, hundreds of times every minute, generating the same data going out. So if somebody's gotten into my network, somebody's doing something nefarious, and hey, look, it's to the Russian Federation. So that might be a big concern, right? So most products, what happens here? They either drop the events because they can't handle the load, they slow down to a crawl, and that's when you need these products the most. But the big kicker here is that's what increases the cost also. For LZ Neo, on the ingest side, that single server scale lowers your total cost of ownership by 97%. The ability to enrich data means faster time to response. If something comes in and goes wrong, I have to investigate it as a person. It takes me an hour or 2 hours to figure out what this device even is, where it's located, who owns it, how important is it in our network. You can have all that right in front of you right when it happens. Then finally, we can orchestrate the repair. So on the network side, if interface goes down, have the system automatically go ping the interface, go look up everything you could possibly know about that device, find out maybe it's a WAN interface, who's the service provider, get the circuit ID, get their phone number, put all of that in front of the NOC operator at the exact time that it happens, a second after it happens. And then if we've already seen this problem before, we could fix it. So we can do change control, we can do compliance, all of those things automatically. LogZilla Neo installs in seconds, literally about 30 seconds. If you go to our website to the install, you'll see a video of that. We do index everything in real time with millisecond accuracy. And then finally, eliminate that complexity. That's part of the other thing that we thought about when we rebuilt everything in LogZilla was, number 1, massive scale. Number 2, it should not be rocket science to operate a product. And I will show you the product here in just a second, if you like. Let's see here. Okay, so you can see this server's been running for quite a few days. There's a lot of stuff to see on this screen. I just put a bunch of widgets for various things that are in the system, but you can see all the different dashboards that are loaded in here. And there's about 50 billion events in here. So if I just do a pure search with no search criteria even, you can see that this comes up in under a second. What was the Loggly and Splunk thing? That was 50 gigs. So 50 billion events is, I don't know, several terabytes of data. And you can see this system itself is logging right now at about 1.5 terabytes per day. That's 20,000 events per second. Incidentally, this is on a virtual machine running in our lab. So you can kind of get the idea of the scalability that we're talking about, which in turn means less money to operate, less admin time, and of course, less hardware, less resources, less everything, which means you are the beneficiary of that to save that money. And I think that brings us close to the 10-minute mark.